Okay, great news, everyone. Our MVP is a total success. Many people are using the application ahead of their trip to find their space train to Mandalore. Actually, it's even suffering from its success because many travelers show up to the spaceport and only to be told that their space train is already full.
I wonder who thought that a booking system, which only displays the next schedule without the possibility of booking them, would not cause any frustration to the user.
I mean, we had to start somewhere. But actually, I received a hello message last Friday, and now we'll add the booking feature to the app. So maybe we can brainstorm on the front end and see how we can adapt the experience. Here we have all the outbound space trains and the inbound space trains that match our criteria. Maybe we can adapt it. And,
you're talking too much, right? Okay. So while you're saying it, you know, I knew that your bad MVP choices will frustrate the user, right? So I have implemented the booking feature without you.
You did what?
Okay, so let me check out, let me do a little demonstration. You see here, the search form didn't change, right? The user can choose between a one-way or round-trip search. And let's say that he departs from coherent, right? Obviously, he wants to go to Mandalore.
Obviously.
But now when he hits search, he only see the outbound space train matching his criteria.
Okay.
And now on each of them, you can see there is several fare.
Right.
First class, second class, and the user has to choose between them. So here we have the price of those fare on the button that helps the user to select it. So it is the selection. Let's select the first class fare for the first outbound.
Yeah, and what you did doesn't work. You can't book.
Man, that's because this is a round trip. So I have to select an inbound space train, right?
Why do you have only two of them?
I mean, because when I've selected the outbound space train, now it only displays me the inbound ones which are compatible with my selection.
Okay.
So here, let's select a second class fare. And now you can see that since my selection is complete, I can hit the book button, right? That was not there before. And by doing that, my trip is booked. There is here a booking summary. You can see here the first class fare I've selected, the second class fare I've selected as well, and the total price, which include the taxes for the user.
Okay, it does seem to work all right, but I'd like to see the code that you implemented without me.
Why not? Let me check out my BBOM branch first.
Why did you call that BBOM?
Because that's the best backend of Mandalore.
Yeah, let's see about that. Yeah, it feels more like a BBOM for big ball of mud.
Why?
I mean, look at this. You have one domain, and you have both booking and searching here. That's too many responsibilities for a single domain. Also, here you have two different aggregates. You know, their life cycle is completely disjointed because booking happens after search, so we need to go microservices right away.
What?
Yeah, this is the way.
Really? Microservices? You don't even know the code of the domain, and you are talking about fancy architecture? Okay, so let's take a look at the booking here. So it only computes the total price, right? And that's all. There is not a lot of logic here. This is way too coupled with the search. It doesn't deserve its own service.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of logic. It does only one thing, but it does it poorly. Look at this. So to compute the total price for each space train, you add the price of the first fare.
Okay. This is because I know how to code fast, right? Since I'm a 10x Mandalorian, right?
That again?
Yeah. So you will see, little man, that here, the space train, right? It has been made first for the search part. Remember, in that case, the user can choose between first class, second class fare. So that's why we have a list there, right?
Right.
And since I have to implement the booking feature, and I know that in that case, the user can select only one fare per space train, and I don't like to repeat myself, I just have to reuse that space train class from the search. We already have all the information I needed, right? By doing that little adaptation there. Because I know that in that case, in the case of the booking, even though this is a list, there's a single value for the fares inside it. I can safely call the first, and I'm saving a lot of money from the company.
So you recreate the same space train, but instead of a list of fare, you put only one inside. This is model tension if I've ever seen one. Like, seriously, you have a space train that was created to answer searching problem, and you're using it to answer booking problems. So obviously, it's not adapted. Let me show you how we can resolve this. So booking will need a different space train, right? Because it has different needs. So let's say we duplicate this class, space train, and then we can adapt it to whatever we need for booking. So we wouldn't need the bound because this is related to the search. Compatible space train, you already selected both space trains anyway, so you don't need this. And more importantly, you have a single fare because you already selected it. So let's add this one. Everything you have in your class here is either related to having multiple fare or compatibility of space train, so we don't care about it. See, this space train is much more simple and much more adapted to our problem. More importantly, what it does here is that it resolves our model tension because, you know, this is adapted. Now we can have structural safety on the fare. You don't code 10 times faster than everybody else. It's just that we need to do 90% of your job.
So if I understand well, because you want to go microservices, you want to duplicate all the code just to simplify one line of code here.
You make it sound bad, but let me explain you in terms that you might be able to understand. Here you have the big ball of mud that you've created with all your concepts hanging out in the mud, you know, in the spaghetti mess. And your booking responsibility actually only uses a part of your domain, of your model. And it's constrained by whatever search need to solve this. So if you want to have a booking model that works correctly, you need to split it in two different microservices. You duplicate the concepts. This way they can be decoupled. And only this way, you know, you can have a model that works fine for booking.
You know that it always compiles on the paper. But in real life, that's way different, right? Because you don't even know the code once again.
Well, prove me wrong.
It won't work. Let me show you why. Here in the space train, we have the schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now can you tell me what will change in the case of the booking regarding the schedule?
Well, we still need the departure, we still need the arrival time, we still need to compute the duration.
Yeah, and the departure has to be before now because we want booked train in the past,
Sure.
right? And arrival should be after departure because we didn't invent space travel, time travel yet, right?
You have one class that's going to be
That's
duplicated.
not one class, man, because you will have also to duplicate all the tests as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that in the near future, we'll have to implement the galactic time zones, which is a real pain in the ass to implement. And if you duplicate that class everywhere, I don't want to duplicate the work for that as well.
Okay, we have some coupling on one concept between search and booking.
That's not one concept, man, because here, okay. Okay, fair.
Right.
What do we have in the fair? The comfort class.
Mm-hmm.
This is first second in the case of the search. Maybe it will become yellow and blue for the booking.
No, it stays first and second.
Okay. So here, the price. An amount and currency. The currency will disappear in the case of the booking?
No.
No. We still need to sum prices, right? And make sure that if we do so, the currencies match.
Of course, yeah.
And regarding the amount, here it has to be strictly positive, but perhaps in the case of the booking, you would like it to be negative, so we pay users to travel with us.
Okay, there's quite a lot of duplication, but it's a
That's
price
not
to
quite a
pay
lot.
for the coupling.
This is the rest of the application. This is the whole application, in fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, in fact, you, microservices fanboys, you always make the same mistake. You thought that because you have duplicated some code everywhere, you have created microservices which are isolated from each other.
Of course.
That's not always the truth. Because here, in that case, schedule, price, comfort class, and fare, it's exactly the same thing in both cases, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly the same concept. So you cannot be sure that in the future, you won't have to make some evolution inside those concepts in a way that they will remain the same in both services. So maybe you have duplicated the cost of development, right? Because you have to know that decoupling doesn't necessarily, duplicating doesn't necessarily mean decoupling when the things are conceptually coupled, right?
Right.
Okay. So that's not the end of the story. Because unfortunately there, the booking doesn't have a lot of business logic. It's really way too coupled with the search, right? Mm-hmm. So for now, we have maybe two bounded contexts. They are communicating with each other through method calls. But if you go microservices, it will become network calls. You will increase the scale cost and so on, the network call instead of method call.
That's right.
Okay. So that's a bad idea. And since they are conceptually coupled, what will happen even though you have microservices? You will have to deploy them in production, at the same time, the booking and the search. Is that permitted with microservices?
This is not the way.
No, this is not the way. So here, what you have created is a big distributed big ball of mud, which is even worse than having a single big ball of mud. And you have lost some flexibility as well, because let's imagine that in the near future, you need criteria and bound in the booking. Mm-hmm. In the same way it has been defined for the search. What will you do? Duplicate the code everywhere? And you call that sustainability?
Okay, I admit maybe we have a little bit of trouble finding the right boundaries between our different bounded contexts.
Yes, because we are splitting into services too early.
Well, I think it's really just a matter of finding the right approach. Then we can find the boundary. And for this, maybe we can use the Droid intern that we received.
Oh, no, I don't like Droids.
We have to supervise its learning.
Yeah, but I don't see the point, to use...
The point is simple. It does every annoying task. We do the gratifying ones.
You mean like creating Jira and estimating user story points?
That's not all there is to our job. Chat3PO.
Hello, Master. How may I be of service to you today?
Split the domains, Droid.
So, even the knowledgeable organics are uncertain of the boundaries of these domains. On what basis should I make such a difficult decision? Should I leave it to chance or perhaps seek counsel from the latest gossip lord? Why not employ that organic not be referred to as a brain?
I like him.
I do not.
You're microservices fanboy, you never use your organic lab as a brain.
Well, you programmed them, so...
So, okay, so the problem here is really hard to find boundaries because maybe we don't have a lot of complexity. But maybe, I get your point. I mean, we have new responsibilities that doesn't have exactly the same life cycle. Perhaps it will be cleaner if we find a way to split them in a way. So maybe we can go through the behaviors instead of going through the concepts, right?
That's a better idea. This is the way.
Okay, this is the way. So the behaviors, they are implemented here in Mandalo Express, which is a domain service, right? It implements several interfaces which represent the features that our domain offers to the rest of the application.
Right, retrieve spaceport, search for space trains, and select space train. I know this. They're used for the search.
Absolutely. I just added book space train to be able to book something.
Okay.
Here, those are just interfaces that define the contract of our features. They are all inside the API package here at the root level of the domain.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer as far as splitting goes. Book space train is the only one used by booking, so we can just split around this.
Yeah, so maybe we can dispatch those interfaces, right?
Right.
So Chat3PO, if you hear me, move book space train API in a new domain that will be the booking domain, and the rest of the API package inside a search domain.
Of course, proceeding immediately.
I had no idea it had a voice mode.
Yeah, so let's see what he has done. Okay, so he made the dispatch. Great.
Nice.
So now we have dispatch, the contracts. So maybe we can dispatch the implementation as well.
Yes.
So for now, everything is implemented in Mandalo Express. Maybe we can, copy it in each domain first and then clean it up.
Yeah, also we'll need to rename it because Mandalo Express, we don't have a single entry point to our application anymore.
Mm-hmm. So Chat3PO moves Mandalo Express inside, make a copy of Mandalo Express in each domain, but rename it in the booking.
Space Train Booker.
Okay, and in the search Space Train Finder.
Well, again.
That's how you learn.
Okay, so it seems he has done the job. And for now, it has exactly the same content than, the old Mandalo Express stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I think here we can just remove all the interfaces that are
yes.
behavior for search, right?
Yes. So by doing that, now we have some code that no longer compiles.
Right.
Since they were here because we need to implement the old interfaces.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also see that some dependencies are no longer required, like the searches and the spaceport, which are in fact repositories. And it makes sense to me because I know that usually it's more used on the search part. So Chat3PO, clean up Space Train Booker.
Do organics even have fingers?
You'll see mine from pretty close if you keep it up.
Okay, so the space train booker, what we can see now, it only depends on the repository of the bookings, right? And remember the rest of the code, it has been made for the booking.
I think we can just do the same thing for the space train finder now.
Exactly. So here, the space train finder.
This time we can just remove
the book space train. And now that will be, yes, the bookings repository that we no longer need here. So, chat3po, clean up space train finder.
I'm getting so bored.
But that's normal, you're training. Okay, so seems great to me. I remember that code. This is the one we had to use when we had only the search part.
Right.
Fine.
I see that you have your dependencies here also that are used only in Space Train Finder, right? So your repositories for your search aggregate and your spaceport entities and Space Train Booker is only using the bookings.
Yeah, so, okay, I see your point. Those are basically just interfaces for the contract of our repository. For now, they are inside the SPI package at the root level of the domain. We have also, besides, some in-memory implementation. So maybe we can dispatch them the same way we did for the API, right?
That's pretty easy here.
So you hear that chat3po, proceed.
Do I have a choice?
No, you don't. Okay, so here you have the bookings and searches and spaceport inside the search. Fine.
Okay, so now we have all the behaviors that's been dispatched. I guess we have the concepts left to handle.
Yeah, so since here it uses the booking,
right?
We know that was quite obvious, but booking and search, chat3po, move them in their own domain, please.
As you wish, master of all things.
Okay, I think we're back to...
Here we have the search, we have the booking, okay.
And we still have our model tension, I believe, here, right?
What do you mean by that?
Here, having multiple fares in the booking.
Yes, that's true.
So we can just dispatch the space train one way or the other. We need to duplicate it and specialize it, I believe.
Okay, so if I understand well what you said, so chat3po, make a copy of space train in each domain and specialize it in the booking in a way that it will have only one fare and get rid of all the stuff we don't need in that case.
Absolutely. What a joyous occasion.
Okay, so let's see what he has done. Here, the space train now from the booking has a single fare. We no longer have bound and compatible space trains. And so let's see what he has done in the case of the search here. Okay.
We have the old space train.
This is the old space train that needs to be here with the old implementation. Great.
Yeah, not so great because that's what I thought. This booking is pretty useless. This droid is pretty useless. It did not understand why we're doing this.
Okay, so you have to fix the compilation error.
Obviously, we're trying to specialize it so we can have better models. We need to remove the model tension, otherwise it's completely useless.
Okay, so here we were able to simplify and say, okay, that's directly the fare of the space train in the case of the booking.
Let's
so maybe
maybe
the droid didn't really understand what we were doing so far.
So to clarify this, as we know, it's pretty difficult to find the right boundaries. They're a little blurry at this point. So instead of going through the concept, we go through the behavior, because this is a way to approach the splitting. We have Space Train Finder on one side, Space Train Booker on one side, and it can highlight which concepts are used. So here, booking and search, we can split them in their own bounded context. It creates some modal tension actually on the space train, because we have to use a different one on each side. So we duplicate it, we specialize it, and it's pretty simple.
Yes, to get rid of the impedance mismatch we had, because in the case of the booking, we had a list of fares for each space train, and we just took the first value. Does that make sense?
Although we still have the same problem with schedule.
Ah, okay. Okay, the schedule. Because we said that it doesn't have to change, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing exactly needed in both booking and search.
So I'm thinking about one domain-driven pattern, which is the shared kernel.
You mean sharing code between the two bounded contexts?
Absolutely.
You're aware we cannot do microservices with this?
That's the point.
I'll try to keep an open mind.
This is the way. So you will see that with that, we'll keep some kind of flexibility. But don't worry. So chat3po, create now a shared kernel at the same levels as the booking and the search, and put inside it the schedule.
But I've got nothing better to do.
Does it?
No, he don't.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, so let's see what he has done. Here. Here.
I think you need to reload.
Okay, so maybe we have to reload the code once. Didn't work? Okay, so let's try it once again. Okay, now.
Do what he said.
No, not that. Okay, so here maybe we have a little issue. Okay, so let's see. Damn droid.
I think you need to reload here.
Yes, maybe from the package itself.
You shall be able to
Not refactor the code.
You can reload the code somewhere here, I believe.
It's there, yes. Okay, I think it's IntelliJ that doesn't work. Okay, so let's see what we have in the code. Maybe it had worked and we don't see it for now. The schedule is from the space train, so it didn't work. Okay, great. So we have a little issue there with the droid. Okay, so up. Maybe we can go from that. What he has done right. Okay, should be fine now. Okay, so sorry for that little problem here. And the schedule now is inside the shared kernel. Thank you, Chat3PO, which is there.
Never trust a droid.
But perhaps it was there already, right? I didn't see it. Sorry. So here we have the schedule, right? Which is shared now, because this is exactly the same thing in both cases. And if you remember well, in the space train, right, we also have something else, which is the fare.
Right, and you did mention that all the concept we have in fare doesn't change at all.
Yes, because the fare is, for now, here, right? I mean, and all those concepts in the fare package is exactly still the same thing in both cases, right? So we can also move that in a shared kernel as well. Right, so Chat3PO proceed.
You get a lot of orders for someone not really in the dark safe.
Yeah, maybe.
So we have everything in the shared kernel now?
Yes, that's yes, what we were expecting. Just one thing here, because it's a bit annoying to have that bar here. Okay, thank you.
So I see what you're doing and I'm not really happy with it because I suppose now you want to take criteria, selection, spaceport and bound. So everything that is left that is neither booking or search or short kernel. And you want to put all of this in the short kernel, right? And you're just recreating your big ball of mud.
That's not the point, in fact. Because if you take a look at the booking here, for example, now its dependencies comes from the booking domain, like the space train, and the shared kernel, right?
Right.
So if you go to the space train, now you will see that everything comes from the shared kernel. So the shared kernel is there to know what can be exactly shared between two domains. It delimitates that concept. If you say that for the other concepts here, like the criteria, that we never see any usage in the case of the booking, you put that in the shared kernel, maybe you will contaminate the booking with that kind of, concepts.
Completely. And eventually you'll restrict even the way we're implementing booking to reuse the structure we needed for the search, which is what we're looking for.
So that's why we should not put that in the shared kernel. So in fact, the rest here, criteria, selection, spaceport, and the space train, the bound here, which remain the space train package, they'll all have to be placed inside the search.
Right.
Okay, so Chat3PO, move the remaining package inside the search now.
Of course, proceeding immediately.
Okay, so it seems he has done the right thing.
Right.
Fine.
Where do you have all the behavior, right? You have your domain services here and here. I guess we can just recap to see where every concept went.
Yes, so in fact, we have dispatched all the remaining concepts where they have, some meaning. And what remains in between, in fact, constitutes what we call the shared kernel. It represents, in fact, the intersection between our two domains.
And more than this, it also materializes the uncertainties we have regarding the position of the boundary. We know the boundary is somewhere within the shared kernel, but we're not sure exactly where it goes, so we don't know how to split.
Absolutely. But having that kind of shared kernel here brings us a lot of flexibility, because in the future, we discover that we need criteria and bound from the search the same way. In the booking, we just have to put that in the shared kernel.
Okay, our job here isn't done, though, because I did notice some compilation issue on the space train booker.
Yes. What's that?
It's expecting a booking space train, and it has a search space train, so...
I think he missed something
here,
with
right?
the import, right? Since now we have two different space trains, one for the booking, another one for the search.
All right, so this is where you were converting your space train from search into something more suitable for the booking.
Yes.
So you had only a single fare, that's why you were creating a setup. Now this is much easier. You just need to have one fare here. You need to get rid of compatible space train and bound. And we're using our booking space train.
So I think we have fixed the problem.
You have a dependency on search here.
Yes.
From within the booking. So basically anything that is in search, even outside of the shared kernel, can now be corrupting and contaminating the booking.
Yeah, because that was when we had everything in the same place. It was quite easy to directly use the search, because when I'm creating a booking, I have to make sure that first the selection is complete. So I just call isSelection complete from the search, and to be able to know with what I have to create the booking, I have to retrieve the space port from the selection of the search.
And convert it into a booking space train.
Absolutely.
So you take a space train from the search.
Yes.
You convert it into a space train from the booking.
Yes.
You still don't see where I'm going there?
No.
Right. You have a direct dependency going from booking to your search. So basically anything at all from the search can go into the booking, including here search and space train.
So it means that we contaminated the booking domain with search and so on.
Precisely. And what you were doing here is simply translating a space train into a space train from the booking. So you just implemented an anti-corruption layer.
So that's a good thing, right?
It may be, but if you put it in the middle of the booking, you still have your bounded context that knows everything in search. So no, if you want to get rid of all these concepts, you need to move it outside of your bounded context.
Okay, but how do we implement that?
Easy, you as a droid.
What?
Anyway,
No.
Chat3PO. Hey, Chat3PO, extract the ACL.
It doesn't recognize your authority, you know?
It doesn't recognize my Mandalore accent because it was coded on Coruscant, I bet. So extract the ACL.
Absolutely. My dear landlords, because my program and purpose in life are so centered on fulfilling your every command and desire, how could I possibly resist the opportunity to perform another menial task? But anyway, I'm extracting an anti-corruption layer with a need to test and that will be infrastructure.
He's pretty cooperative with some nerfs, right?
Yeah, I guess it does understand our way.
Okay, so let's see what he has done.
So we don't have a dependency on search anymore, only on the search ID, which is a UID. So no more imports from the search.
Yes. Okay, but how does it work? Because we still need to know if the selection is complete, right?
Yeah, simply. So we still check the selection here if it's complete using a service that is injected into booking, and we still convert the space train by just retrieving the selection of the search, but once again with a service, so we don't need to know what happened in search.
Okay, what are those things? There are interfaces, okay, so the defined contract for the booking domain, because this is in the service providing interface of the booking domain. Okay, but who is implementing those interfaces?
I believe it will be made in, right here, in an anti-corruption layer package. So
we put that at the same levels than the booking and the search.
Exactly. It doesn't belong to booking anymore. So now we don't have dependencies on search from booking. It's outside of it. And you can see it depends both on booking and search, because we need to implement these interfaces that were defined in booking, and we can still have the behavior for checking the selection completeness. And
just had put my old code there with the conversion. So it means that since it implements the interfaces that booking defined, it can only rely on booking concepts.
That's right.
And he knows the search part, so he's able to do the conversion, but with a kind of dependency injection, the booking will never have any adherence to the search domain, right?
Precisely. So here's the whole point of it. Everything in the shared kernel, we can just use it in both sides, but any communication we have towards search, it goes through the anti-corruption layer, and we avoid being corrupted.
Okay, fine.
What do we do with the shared kernel that is left? So, because I don't want to keep that forever.
I don't know. I think that for now we have to live with it because we don't have any hypothesis to know how it will, change.
Yeah, and actually we don't have time to take care of it because we still have new features to implement. So people have been complaining, the passengers, that they are not able to choose wherever they want to sit in the space train. So what we want to have for the passenger of the first class is the capacity to choose between the private cabin, the observation deck, or the prestigious flying bridge. And for our second class passengers, they can have a shared cabin, the torpedo storage compartment, or the mysterious cargo bay.
That's a pretty tough option for the second class, right?
Sharing cabins is how you make friends.
With a hut?
Yeah, I mean, somebody has to befriend them. It's a good learning opportunity for the droid.
Yeah, maybe. So SHA-3PO implement the seat location feature in the booking domain because I don't think we need that in the search, right?
Nah, pretty not.
Still, needing my glorious presence, I are utterly fascinating. The seat elevation even forced me to create a new impairment inside the booking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's too full of itself. I will double check it because...
Okay, so it said that it created a new invariant in the booking.
Right here.
So the invariant is there. So now it checked that the selected seat locations are compatible with the space train. It's there. Okay, so we make sure that the fare of the space train is compatible with the seat location.
Obviously, we don't want any second-class passenger on the flying bridge.
Okay. So how does he implemented that in the fare? Make sure that the seat location is in the compatible seat location from the comfort class.
Nice, and we have the right mapping here because we have all the right seat location for the first class and for the second class. Pretty well done.
We have a problem here.
What kind?
Here you see that the comfort class depends on the seat location, which comes from the booking, right?
Right.
But comfort class is still in the shared kernel. So it means that, yeah, Space Train Finder here, the search part is using the comfort class from the shared kernel, and now it's contaminated by the booking domain.
Yeah, clearly the droid doesn't understand anything, so...
Yes, and I think we have exactly the same problem here with the fare. Yes, because the fare is inside the shared kernel as well, and it has dependency on the seat location from the booking. So I think that SHA-3PO, you didn't understand what we are doing so far. In that case of model tension, you have to duplicate fare and comfort class in each domain and specialize them in a way that the seat location feature is only implemented in the case of the booking context.
Sure, your subject.
Okay.
Let's check the fares it duplicated.
Yeah, so the fare for the booking part, it still have the seat location feature. Okay. The comfort class here comes from the booking and still have the mapping. And let's see what he has done on the search part here.
Space train.
Yes, fare. Okay, it doesn't have any mention of seat location there. And the comfort class here is only first and second, so that was the old implementation. I think that was the right thing to do, right?
Yeah, although maybe it's time to debrief a bit what we're trying to implement here so it doesn't keep breaking our short kernel like this. So we add new features, new responsibilities. So when we add the seat location selection in our booking bounded context, it creates some model tension on the shared kernel. Because to be efficient, we need to modify the way it works for the fare and the comfort class only for the booking. So to be able to do this, we duplicate it, we specialize it on each side, And our shared kernel is shrinking, so we're finally moving toward microservices.
Yeah, but you will have to wait for that. Because we have some urgent feature to do.
Every feature is always urgent anyway.
Yeah, you know, product owners, right?
Yeah.
So we have to implement now the tax computation. Because as I said before, in the booking summary page, we have the total price, including the taxes, but that's not sufficient for our corporate travel users. Because they need the tax portion from that total price, otherwise they won't be able to expense their booking, right? So that's why here in the mockup I've added the tax portion, and we have to apply a 20% tax rate if I'm not wrong.
Yep, learning opportunity still.
Okay, so let's ask the rate for that. Chat3PO, implement the tax feature in the booking.
And this time I think if you touch the shared kernel, I'm going to sell your parts to Jawas.
I think you are mistaken with your team with the lab. Implementing booking. Incompatible instructions exception.
I don't think genies of the lamp do that. Anyway, it was bugging in booking. So we have the tax rate. Where is this? Okay, it's
okay,
at 20%.
Yes.
That's good. And to compute the tax portion here.
Why did you put that in comment?
I don't know. Total price, get tax portion of the total price based on the tax rates. It seems all right. I guess the AI takeover is not for tomorrow. We can just implement this so far. We can create, this function in price normally, and we'll be able to implement it here.
I see the problem.
What is it?
Okay, you said to Chat3PO that you must not touch the shared kernel, right?
Obviously.
But here, price is inside the shared kernel once again, and get tax portion of, introduce some coupling with tax rate and tax portion from the booking.
Right, so obviously you need to to split it.
Yes, but we have to make the implicit explicit, right?
I mean, since when doesn't artificial intelligence understand what we're implying to it?
Okay, so Chat3PO, to make the things clear, in that kind of problem, duplicate and split the price and keep get tax portion of in the booking domain.
Well, I'm just a bit more useful than some massive tax model.
Not sure.
Why would you say something so brave yet so controversial?
Okay.
Anyway, no, it's the tax portion is only in the price from the booking.
So let's see what he has done for the price of the search. It's
here.
There. Okay, it doesn't have any notion of taxes, so that's fine.
So let's implement it here. So first we need to compute the tax ratio from the tax rate and multiply that by the current amount to return the tax portion. Yeah.
Yes.
So we want to have our current amount multiplied by the ratio we just computed. And
TG is going crazy.
Yep, annoying. Obviously, we use the same currency.
Yeah, but here you will have to add the times operator on the amount because I think it doesn't exist.
Right, it's a value object. Not
okay.
I think we just need to return simply
a
new amount using the current value.
Yes, that you will multiply by
the tax ratio.
You don't need the multiplication. So okay, fine. So I think we have done the job, right? We can push that in production.
Exactly.
So Chat3PO, push that in production now.
And I feel like there's some pattern here that Chat3PO is not understanding. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe I have to explain it once again. So here we introduced new behaviors in the booking part, so it became more complex. And by doing that, it has put some model tension on the shared kernel, the price here, because it doesn't need, in the case of the search, to have any computation of the tax and tax portion. So we have to duplicate that, specialize it, in a way that we won't have coupling and contamination in the search. So that way now, we have, a shared kernel, is smaller now.
Nice.
The last release introduced a bug in production. Our travelers turn up with fantastic bookies. I was able to reproduce the problem. I opened the front end on one problematic booking.
How dramatic.
We just demonstrated that our bands are not yet ready to face artificial intelligences.
Why is it being so dramatic? Like, ChatGPT, you're the one who messed up the deployments, obviously.
Okay, so let's see what the problem is. Here we have a past booking. Seems that we are not able to open it. There is a message here, error message. Departure cannot be in the past. So let's see, yes, where we have that kind of thing in the code. Okay, it seems to come from the schedule. Okay, yeah. There is an invariant there that makes sure that departure is always in the future. But now that we need to open past bookings, that's a problem.
Yeah, if only someone said we had to duplicate and specialize the schedule.
That was not true when you said it, because at that time, we didn't need the expense feature, right? So we didn't have to open past bookings.
Right. No, at any rate, we still need to check it, but only for the bookings that hasn't been finalized anyway.
Absolutely, because we have to make sure that when we create new booking from the selection of the user, the space train are not departing in the past, but once it's finalized, it's fine.
Right.
So it means that invariant cannot stay there in the case of the booking. It has to be moved in the booking aggregate, since it depends now on the state of the booking.
Exactly.
So you hear that ChatGPT, duplicate and split the schedule.
This project really lies on my shoulders.
It's getting confident.
Yes, seems so. Okay, so let's see what he has done. In the case of the search first, we have the old implementation of the schedule. Okay, that's fine. Damn IntelliJ. And the case of the booking now, I think that we should go first to the booking because I said that we need a new here. Yes, a new invariant. Now we make sure that we cannot have departure in the past when this is a new booking. And if this is not, this is fine. Right, okay. So let's
check the schedule.
The schedule, yes, from the booking.
Make sure that it still have.
Yes, this is just only the one which remains is the arrival after the departure. I think it's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. And if we take a step back, we can realize more that we keep having some pattern here, right? So we didn't realize it earlier, but we put some model tension on the schedule. We just specialize it on each side. Our shared kernel has shrunk, but it still exists. If we were going to stay on modular monoliths, it wouldn't be a problem, right? I think the boundaries are pretty clear here, and it's not much problem when we develop anymore. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that the usage from searches and booking, so the number of searches created and the number of booking created, are evolving on separate ways, yes, because we have much more searches that are coming, and it's increasing at a different rate than the bookings. Okay,
it makes sense because it means that the user has to make several searches before finding the space train he needs, right?
Exactly. So the strain on the searches system is much more important than the one on the booking system. And on the other hand, we have a lot more deployments on booking recently than on search. And the deployment of both subdomains are completely decorrelated.
This is because we don't need to add more new feature in the search. That's pretty stable. And since booking is new, we still need to, there's some kind of feature pressure on that.
Yeah, and we have to handle this instability on the search as well. So honestly, it will be much better if we can go to microservices because of this.
Okay, so I won't use the term of microservice, but I have your point. Since we have business reason to scale in different ways the search and the booking domains, maybe it deserves their own domain scope services.
You can call it like this if you want. So we still have the shared kernel left, so...
okay, so...
I think we need to...
You want to know what we will do about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we have the shared kernel. Inside it, we have amount and currency, right?
Should we just duplicate them?
So, yeah, but you can see here in the amount, there's a problem here because there's a dependency with tax ratio from the booking.
I mean, it's just a big decimal, there's no imports on booking, so it's not a big deal.
Yes, but it's still using the language of the booking, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So they are a bit conceptually coupled. So one option can be, because this is a kind of model tension, we can duplicate and specializing it by putting the times only on the booking part, because in fact, we don't use it in the search part.
That's right.
It means that we will have a kind of residual shared kernel with currency inside it, and currency is pretty stable.
Yeah, it's just GNM with a list of currencies. So.
Yes, there is not a lot of complexity in that. We don't aim to move some business logic.
Let's just duplicate it. It's not a big deal.
Yes, in that case, it's OK for me to duplicate that because it's stable and the shared kernel is stable. And with that, we may have isolated services.
Finally, some microservices, sorry.
No,
domain scoped services. Okay.
If you don't have that, scaling stuff, you can also have multiple modules in your modular monolith.
Right, it can still live there. But it allows us to finally move again.
But yes.
More importantly, though, what's really interesting with this is we don't have a shared kernel anymore, so there is no more risk of potentially being corrupted through it with a misusage of our shared kernel. Every communication between search and booking goes through the ACL.
I think there is another option as well.
What are you thinking about?
OK, so here, let's go back to the residual shared kernel we had. OK, what if the tax ratio here, I rename that to something like scalar?
I think we're not completely decoupled from booking because although you did remove the conceptual adherence,
yes,
we still have times, and times, as we said, is only used in booking. So if you leave it here, it's like we're going to use the amount like a library, like having functions that's partly used.
But I think that's the point because from the standpoint of the amount, having arithmetic operation makes sense, right? We could have also here divide, yes, okay. But also, if you take a look here, we have amount and currency together. And sometimes they are used to create prices. Sometimes this is for taxes. Sometimes it can be discounts.
I think I know where you're going. This is actually the money pattern.
Yes, that's the money pattern. So in fact, it means that here we have a hidden bounded context inside our shared kernel.
So it wasn't so much a shared kernel as it was really a bounded context separately that we're using on both sides.
So here, with that money bounded context, it changed a bit the relationship between our domains, right? Because we have a kind of new domain, which is a generic subdomain, since this is not really related to our job. We are a travel booking company. We don't have to deal with money in every case, right? We don't have any specific needs regarding money.
Since it's generic, we can also just replace it with a library, I guess.
Yes, and use something on the shelf, something which is open source. And our search and booking domain can just be conformist to that library. That's fine.
What's interesting as well is it's a completely different kind of responsibility. So you guys might want to check the large-scale structure, such as layered responsibilities, layers of responsibility for this kind of problem. It works pretty well.
I think that was a pretty long stand-up, right? And they're a bit lazy.
Less than 1 hour. It's pretty efficient, I believe. But, we did mention some interesting theory here, and it might be interesting to step back and have a more meta vision of what we've just done.
Yes, maybe you've seen that. It really looks like a cellular mitosis in biology. Because as the time passes, we had more and more responsibilities to our bounded context until one day, one new responsibility is a bit orthogonal with the original purpose of the bounded context. It would create some pressure on the existing concept by creating some kind of impedance mismatch, like the thing we have seen with the list of fares that was not required in the case of the booking. To avoid to become a big ball of mud, what we should do is create some kind of proto-bounded context in which we will dispatch the behaviors. And then we will also dispatch all the concepts that are only used in one side, perhaps sometime by doing duplicate and spatialize of the concept. And what remains is a kind of transitional shared kernel. And this is where, in fact, you will have your boundaries between those domains, but you don't have any of hypothesis to know where you have to cut.
That's why it's transitional, because we know at some point we're going to find boundaries within it, but just not yet.
But you have some rules to make sure that this is a good shared kernel. You have to rule some respect. Everything that is inside the shared kernel must have exactly the same meaning, the same presentation regarding the structure and the types, the same invariants, the same business rules.
And this must be true for every single bounded context that is using the shared kernel.
Yes, otherwise you will create coupling, right? And you will contaminate other bounded contexts through the shared kernel.
And yeah, it can be a little difficult to really enforce this if you don't have a good level of ownership of every single bounded context using the same shared kernel.
That's true. That's why you should try to not share the shared kernel between teams. Otherwise, you may couple your connective load with the one of the other team, and maybe your shared kernel will become kind of big ball of mud.
So once you've acted that you do want to have multiple models and multiple bounded contexts, now we can just iterate. As we add more feature, it will be a little awkward to program them without touching the shared kernel. So it will create model tension focused, specialized on the shared kernel, right? And whenever we have this, we implement it like we would want to see our domain, our model, by just duplicating and specializing the concepts on each side. If we iterate, we do this enough time, eventually we'll have a much smaller shared kernel.
But this is maybe a long time, and this is a kind of stronger thing on the shared kernel. You have to know that when you duplicate and specialize, sometimes they will become different concepts as well. It doesn't have to be exactly the same name. For example, you can have something that become prospect and customer, right, in different contexts.
Yeah, specialization is not just changing a bit the code. And sometimes you have some shared kernel left, and it's not a big deal because in a modular monolith, you can live with, I don't know, like the currency and the amount, for example, that is shared. It's not a huge problem. If you do really need it, though, and to go toward domain scope service, you can just duplicate it and have two distinct services.
But only if the shared kernel, which remains, is stable, not complex. Otherwise, you will have a distributed big ball of mud, right? Because the thing will be still conceptually coupled. But and you don't have to go for microservices. It can be also a modular monolith with those two modules, right? And sometimes, that remaining shared kernel, you will add more and more concepts or perhaps business logic.
If we add the times function in amount, for example.
Yes, for example. And in that case, maybe this is a hidden bounded context. And you have to know about that.
Okay, nice. So we did the first half. We just showed how we can do it with the domain.
Yes.
But now maybe we should show how we handle the infrastructure, the REST controllers, the data layer, everything.
There is a pattern for that. If you need more insight about the Hive pattern, the guy who coined that, Thomas, is there, and you can ask him after the talk. Or maybe you can come on the stage, right?
Nice.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What?
I know that you can't friend or plan to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something that cannot allow to happen.
Maybe next time?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.